Would like to welcome you all to a community event for Wildfire. We're going to address some items within our community, and then also the Sunnyside Prescribed Burn. We have lots of speakers, so it'll be fairly fast paced. And towards the end, we will address questions. I will bring a mic. We're going to document this both film and audio for later. And with that, we'll jump in. Couple housekeeping items to cover here. As you walk up the top of the stairs, bathrooms are there and water's there. Anything else, just flag me down and I'll get you what you need. Community meeting, fire burn. The agenda for today is wildfire risk and mitigation strategies, overview of the Sunnyside plan, safety measures and monitoring, and what can you do, resources to help, and then we'll finish up with that Q&A. So do we want to jump with right off the bat? Angie Davlin, running for Wildfire Collaborative.
Thanks, Shaggy. All right. We thought it was important to talk about why are we doing this burn. So as we think about what is our wildfire risk here, not just in Aspen, but in the entire valley, and what is our strategy to address that risk? So first, let's think about how we know that the Roaring Fork Valley is a wildfire corridor, and how we think about this threat as both being critical and increasing in concern year over year. I think this is one of those like one graphic does it all kind of pictures for you here. This is a fire intensity graphic looking at Pitkin County. And as you can see pretty clearly in this, we're in a really high risk area. That dark red is the one of the highest fire intensity ratings that you can have. And you can tell almost all of Pitkin County is that bright red color. Anybody know what that little white spot is? Yeah, that's Sopris. And it's not a high fire risk because there's no trees at the top, and there's often snow on it almost year round. Many of us who have been here for a long time, or even in the past few years, have lived through fires. Fires are a way of life in the Roaring Fork Valley. They've been here before, they will come again, and it's our duty to be prepared. The other thing that we look at, in addition to wildfire risk, is all of the concerns that can happen after a fire comes through. So we know we'll see wildfires again. And we know that when those wildfires come through, there are a lot of post-fire hazards, from flooding to debris flows to mudslides. This is the state's post-fire susceptibility analysis. And you can see that our watershed is there in blue. And again, we're one of the darkest red areas in the state, one of the most concerning high-risk areas, specifically in this map for post-fire hazards, flooding, debris flow, erosion. So as a collective here, all the people in the room will tell you today that we're really looking at community resilience. We're not able to stop wildfires from happening, but our task is to reduce the destructive consequences of those wildfires. I'm going to turn over to Adam McCurdy from ACES to talk to you about how fire is a really important part of our landscape.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angie. And thank you all for coming here. Just wanted to do a quick run through, and like Shaggy said, it's all going to be real quick. I'm just going to quickly compare and contrast a little bit of the Lake Christine fire, which a lot of people have seen above the town of Basalt, which is somewhat similar to how Red Mountain feels for our watershed of being right above. So these next two graphics I'm going to show are from the Colorado Forest Restoration Institute out of CSU. And so, if we look at, again, just real quick, what we see in a pinyon juniper landscape, so what we're seeing above basalt versus what we're seeing here, pinyon juniper don't come back very well after fire. So they're not very fire adapted. They don't experience fire that frequently. What we're talking about here is, instead of refer to as sprouting species, gamble oak and aspen. And there are a few important notes here. One, you see in the graphic, they burn. We expect most of the trees that are in the area that burns are going to die, which is actually a good thing, because you need that overstory mortality within those species to trigger the new growth that we're looking for here. So it's not a ponderosa pine forest where a lot of the mature trees are going to live and the bottom understory is going to be cleared out. A lot of the mature trees will burn, but then new sprouts will come up really rapidly afterwards. And so just to illustrate this is a satellite photo of Lake Christine. The burn area on the front side of Basalt that you look at is you're in town in 2017. And this is in 2023. So the year before the fire to the year after, and you can see not much has come back following that fire in terms of woody vegetation. So this is the Hunter Creek. This is the 2022 fire. This is on the Lower Plunge Trail. If anyone's familiar with that trail, this is right afterwards. So, we're looking at high aspen mortality here. You're not seeing any living aspen stems. This is that same trail just a year later. So a lot of what we're seeing here, these are all aspens that are coming back. I didn't have any great photos from last year, but the aspen trees there are now 12 feet tall. I can't reach the top of the trees. So really fast regeneration in these sprouting species like Gamble Oak and Aspen. And these species need fire as a part of their life cycle. That's how these areas get renewal. That's how material breaks down. So through fire suppression, we've impacted the health of these ecosystems, and we have an awesome opportunity to restore it. This is Lake Christine. This is 2020. This is the upper portion. So this is a hot fire that was burning in the spruce fir. So mostly subalpine fir, Engelmann spruce, more soil damage and slower recovery. So what you might expect to see after a wildfire is what we expect to see after a prescribed fire. Now I think I'm turning over to David.
Right. I'm David Kuhn. I'm the city forester with the City of Aspen Parks Department. And I have been involved in a project that was conceived of in 2021. Can you hear me okay? A little bit louder? How about now? Okay. Sorry, I'm soft talker. So in 2021, a group of stakeholders, including, and I'm going to read the list because it's so long, I will forget to mention somebody. But we had a group including City of Aspen, Pitkin County, Aspen Fire, Aspen Skiing Company, ACES, and the U.S. Forest Service, and now joined by ABLT as well, Aspen Valley Land Trust. This group formed to address the spread of Douglas fir bark beetle in the Aspen Mountain area. And as we just started to evaluate what the concern was, we were looking at values at risk, including, of course, the city. You can see on this map that there is a layer of wildfire intensity where we have very high intensity in these dark or these red areas. So you could see if there was a large fire on Shadow Mountain, that could be significant, right? We could have a lot of embers showering town. We could have potentially an urban fire, right? Which none of us want, especially in light of the recent events. So looking at some of the mortality that was mapped by Dan West, Dr. West, and his team with Colorado State Forest Service, we came up with a scope of work. And so you can see here that these shaded areas are all the areas that since 2022 we've been treating with pheromone packets. And these areas are mostly pure stands of Douglas fir. So the bark beetle, Douglas fir bark beetle is host specific to that tree. And if left unchecked, it can kill large areas of forest, of Doug fir forest. And then that becomes, of course, dry fuels, right? In an area where we have this risk. So so the wildfire risk was one of the main components of the reason that we decided to move forward with this project. We last year we did this scope. You can see we actually added a part to Shadow Mountain right here on that west side of Shadow Mountain, and we are planning on another project this summer treating these areas again. And so these are all on public property. There's also private property where we're not able to treat. So that's why it doesn't look like a whole, like everywhere has been treated. But we are treating what we can. And there are other property owners that are treating, protecting their stands of Doug fir as well. I think that is all I have for now. And who is next? Oh, and I will just say too, sorry, there are some resources for the city in case you're curious about what the city is doing. We have some resources for your property, for how to create a fire resistant landscape and some other things as well. So you can use that QR code to find those resources. Was there a question? Are we taking questions right now? Let's hold till the end. Okay. All right. And I think, Angie, you're back.
All right. So I think all of those make good evidence that our risk here is high. So what do we do about it? When we think about how to reduce our risk, all of the amazing people in this room here who come together regularly as part of the Roaring Fork Valley Wildfire Collaborative and in projects like the Aspen Beetle Project and others, know that healthy forests are one way to help reduce our risk. And this is a nice graphic that shows why kind of the dense overgrown forests that we happen to have around Aspen and in other places of the valley really exacerbate our wildfire risk. So knowing this, we have two main tools. We can go into the forest and do mastication work and prescribed fire in hopes of creating healthier and more resilient forest, thinning out some of those dense fuels that carry fire really quickly and kind of slowing the progression of fire in order to allow our fire professionals to get in and fight fire when it does happen in the wilderness. The other piece of this puzzle, which I'll talk about later if there's time, is working directly with homeowners to do home level hardening actions. But you're all here today to hear about the Sunnyside Prescribed Burn. So that's the second of those tools. I also want to situate this particular Sunnyside Prescribed Burn project in a larger valley-wide strategy. So this is one piece of the puzzle. The Wildfire Collaborative works in the entire watershed. And some examples of other projects that we're doing, in addition to this Sunnyside project, include work in basalt, work in the Mid-Valley around the Cypress Mountain Ranch, East Cypress Creek area, work directly in marble, and future projects that hopefully will move forward in the next year or two in the Glenwood Springs and Carbondale areas. All right, but again, you're here today to talk about Sunnyside, so I'm going to turn it over to the Forest Service, who's going to give you a lot of specific details about what and when and where.
Hey, good evening. I'm Dan Nielsen. I'm the fuels program manager on the White River National Forest and likely be the burn boss on this project. So a little bit of history of the Sunnyside project. It's part of a greater environmental assessment, which is the Aspen Cypress Wildlife Habitat Improvement Project, which has approximately 45,000 acres of treatments. Between RX is about 19,000 acres, 45,000 acres of prescribed fire, and then roughly 19,000 acres of mechanical treatments. So far, RX-wise, we've done, 10,000 plus acres of treatments on it. And we've been burning since, 2013. And that's been all over between up here, Woody Creek, up Collins Creek, up the Crystal River Valley, and kind of
outside of north of Basalt as well. So we've had projects all over. And the primary focus of it has been for wildlife habitat improvement and fuels reduction. So kind of getting into, why we're doing this. Number one, one of the things is firefighter and public safety. That's the reason we do prescribed fire, to reduce wildfire risk. And also protect firefighters when we're doing this, so it makes it easy to suppress fires. There is the added value of, again, the fuels reduction, habitat improvement for wildlife. And also what goes into planning this is there's the environmental factors where we have the fuels condition, obviously weather, what the weather is, topography here, smoke's obviously a concern. And also too, how do we take these prescribed burns and keep them essentially where we want them to be? So I think you guys have noticed probably on the hillside there on Red Mountain, there's some, now that snow has come, you can see those. They're not a new ski run or a downhill mountain bike. They're control lines for the burns. That are on it'd be the west side toward the Starwood side of things. And we have 2 holding lines there. Along the bottom edge is the Red Mountain ditch, which we'll use as a holding feature. And then to the east side of it, we're going to use natural features and snow as a holding feature. And that's why for this prescribed fire, people have asked, when's it going to happen? It's a springtime burn, so we keep, and also one more holding feature on top of the mountain will be snow on top as well to keep it so it doesn't go up and over the mountain as well. So there is a delicate balancing act when we look to do these, as far as you got to have snow in the right areas, but also have it dry enough so it does burn on those faces we want. And this will be a mosaic burn. Usually historically we burn 40 to 70%. So out of the 800, 900 acres, we'll probably physically burn half of that. And then it comes back to your view shed coming forward here. It won't look, you could see some burn patches possibly first year, and then within, come midsummer or the following year, you'll see vegetation growing back, much like the other slides from the Hunter Creek prescribed fire. And then within 2 or 3 years, you can hardly even tell it's there. And that's what we're looking for. And some other factors that go into, these prescribed burns is resource availability. Do we have the right amount of firefighters? Do we have the aviation resources? And that goes into, if we don't have these things, contingency resources also, just in case something is to happen on scene and we don't implement. And we have a burn plan that, lays all that out, and it's a legal binding document that if we don't have any of those factors, we won't implement. We've been planning for this project, about a year now. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And it also, factors into, we've done a lot of other similar type burns, just not this close to Aspen. We've done the Hunter Creek, which is pretty close, but this is front and center. So there's a lot of planning that goes into these projects. So when? Everyone always asks me, when's it going to happen? Right now, so this is a graphic of the next, 6 to 10 days, really broad stroke. So temperatures are about normal. Pre-sip, we're almost in the green. So it's anyone who's lived here, it's, March in Aspen. Is it going to be snowy? Is it going to have another drying trend? Looks like the next couple weeks is fairly wet. So really seasonality here could be end of the month, early April time. As soon as then, we're looking to possibly implement this prescribed fire. And it's difficult. I wish I could give everybody an exact day. Everyone wants to know, but so for planning, how it usually goes is, we kind of let people know, right around this time, a month out or so, the crystal ball gets a little bit clearer, a few weeks. And then once we really get close, we'll keep the community updated, let you know. And then the next 2 or 3 days before, we'll really let people know what we're planning. And then they can, we'll get notifications out, have all that. So we try not to surprise the community as much as possible. with any of this stuff, and you can't reach everybody. We try and do our best with notifications. So smoke as well. That's this prescribed fire is pretty front and center in the community. What smoke effects could you see in the community? So the state of Colorado regulates all the smoke that we put up. We have a smoke permit they issue. There's environmental factors with that, with dispersion rates. And also due to those dispersion rates, they limit how many acres we can burn. Fuel type up there is mixed mountain shrub, aspen. So it's short duration. The main amount of smoke is from that initial main ignitions. We'll put up a pretty good column of smoke, and then usually by that night, things have calmed down significantly. And I think last time we did Hunter Creek, the most amount of smoke was we put a bunch of smoke in Leadville. Here in town, you could hardly tell, but Leadville kind of got the brunt of it. And we factor that in as well and let those other communities know. And if there is any adverse effects from smoke, there could be some settling in the evening, but historically with the mixed mountain shrub, there's not a long residence time with this. And then usually so you have the initial, main ignitions, put up our big column of smoke, and then next 3 to 5 days, maybe have some isolated smokes on the hill, but then usually after that 3 to 5 days, with just fuel moistures and also, nighttime RH recoveries, these burns usually go out on their own. So wildlife, how will wildlife be impacted? We burn this springtime due to, usually there's not, animals aren't calving. There's not as many up on those upper hillsides. Usually they're down low. And also there's a nesting bird. Usually by May 15th is when we have migratory bird. Either we shut down or we have our biologists come in to make sure there's no nesting birds. So that's kind of another time as well, that May 15th shut down. But that's usually where we should be implementing way before, I'd assume before then, for this particular project. And also too, how will the wildlife benefit from this burn? Not just be impacted. We increase the forage out there through the vigorous suckering of between the aspen and the gamble oak. Again, gamble oak isn't like red oak or a lot of, different oak trees. They're not meant to be old growth. They have a 70 to 100 year lifespan. Well, they'll still be green, but they don't produce acorns. Half the branches are dead. So really by burning them, we take out those older growth, and we get the next generation coming up underneath. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, they mentioned, birds, flowering plants. You guys saw that picture from earlier. All the native flowers coming back up, good for pollinators. And also, bird habitat as well. Yeah, that's kind of a brief overview. Sunnyside project, and I'll hand it back over and we'll answer any questions after.
Jumping to the next slides here. Short little intro by Aspen Fire, and then I'll hand it over to the sheriff here about the safety measures and the emergency preparedness. Aspen Fire, this project is a U.S. service project. With our relation to the community, we are kind of an ambassador to what's going on this side, so we have some opportunities to assist. With that, we do have Station 64 down by Gervas Way. Kind of could be a coordination center for them or a staging center as this gets closer. With that, we also have the ability to have additional personnel here as our operational members, and then also our apparatuses that we already have here. U.S. Forest already has their full plan. We would just be additional if they request. And then as an information base, we would also be kind of when there's smoke in the air, we get the first calls. So we'd be able to handle a lot of that. So it'd be Allie and myself handling those, but also with the knowledge that if it's an elevated issue or an elevated concern, we do have the resources to tunnel that traffic into the Forest Service again. Additional resources that are out there on this project of the Sunnyside Prescribed Burn. The Roaring Fork Wildfire Collaborative has a really good summary page up right now. Kind of the bullet points of what the project is, some maps and all that. Excellent resource to take over. Kind of summarizing a lot of what today is. As far as ourselves here at Aspen Fire, we do have our homepage, and then inside that we do have emergency preparedness, and then also ability to sign up for wildfire home assessments, being our number one kind of in the community tactic of hardening and making things more resilient. This is kind of a landscape project. We also need that to happen also to gain preparedness. And then as a wildfire division itself, if you guys ever wanted to reach out to Aspen Fire and reach out to us on the wildfire side, we could share future projects that are in the works to other technologies and other things that we're working on that are at a pretty exciting pace on what we're able to learn from things that are out there on the landscape. I'd like to introduce Sheriff Parker Lathrop.
Hello, my name is Parker Lathrop. I work for the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's in the back of the room, back right there. So, to be clear, I'm a stand-in tonight for our emergency manager. He happened to be out of town, so unfortunately he couldn't be here. I'm going to go over a few quick things just about notifications. They don't necessarily always relate to wildfire. It's a great tool for wildfire, but it's a great tool for communication with the public. I'll start with who in this room's heard of Pick and Alert. Okay, who signed up for Pick and Alert? I have a very easy job tonight then. Few things I'll just talk about it, just so you all know. There are some features of Pick and Alert that you can tailor it to yourself, because I know we get a lot of questions about, I don't want all the alerts it puts out, or I do want all the alerts it puts out. Another option we have is called Reach Well. They do mirror each other in this sense, that anything that goes on Pick and Alert, I mean, anything on Pick and Alert will be on Reach Well. Pick Alert is a little more specific, so if you are not looking for everything, I'd push you towards Pick and Alert. If you want a very easy way to sign up, you can actually sign up for Eagle County and Garfield County through Reach Well as well. So it's another great tool, but I'll give them to you both so you have those options. Okay, Pick and Alert, pretty straightforward. You guys know what it is. Okay. It's a fast, powerful communication tool connecting residents to urgent safety and communication information through a combination of phone, email, text messages, and or hearing impaired receiving devices. The system can reach residents in any situation where fast, effective communication is essential to keep, safety and keeping you informed. I'll tell you right now, these aren't our only tools in an emergency. We have some other stuff where we can override cell phone towers and push out text messaging, but these are the optional ones you can sign up. There's the web address in case you want to sign up again, but also in case you want to go in and adjust your settings. So if you don't want to know when Highlands parking lot's full, you can go in there and unsubscribe from the parking, not yet, but there'll be a parking lots a field in the future. Right now it's looped in with, I think, community alerts. So we're going to try and tailor a little bit more because we really want you to get the information that you want because we want to keep people engaged. So just some of the types of alerts: emergency alerts, community alerts, school alerts, business alerts, weather alerts. Pick Alert puts all those out there, and then you can go in there and pick which one of those you want to subscribe to. And some are specific to your area. So if you want stuff that's specific to Snowmass, you can sign up for that. Aspen, sign up for that. Both, you can sign up for that. A huge, powerful part of this is we also create a kind of a phone list or a list of folks who have additional needs. So we can pass along to different responders, health and human services. So when we do have an emergency, we know when we have people with maybe visual disabilities, or we have people who have mobility issues or medications. It's a big one. So there's a lot of like that power dependent. A lot of people who are on oxygen or have medications who can't when the power goes out. We need people reaching out to them so we know they're still getting that vital supply of whatever it is that the power supply is for. So if you know of anybody or yourself who meets any of these categories or needs something more, please feel free to reach out. We want to make sure your name ends up on that list, because the last thing we do is miss something that we could have easily planned for in the future, planned for prior. Okay. If you need help with your pick and alert, it's all online. You can go on there yourself and do it, but not everybody is online or wants to be online. You can always call that 970-920-5310. That's our dispatch center. Most of the time, they will be there to answer questions. But if Brett's working, our dispatch manager, he will go in there and adjust your settings with you. He can help walk you through that or do that for you if you're just not on the internet to adjust this yourself. Think slide here. And then I'll jump back to Reachwell. So Reachwell is an app. So if you want the Reachwell app, which is very easy, go to any app store, whether it's Android or Apple, look up Reachwell. There was a QR code, a different slide. Download the Reachwell app. Very simple. Go in there and look up Pitkin. It'll populate Pitkin County, and then you can just sign up. The nice part is with this, you don't sign up. You don't provide any of your email, phone number, anything like this. It's your app. You are opting in to receive push notifications, so you're not sharing any data. And for some people in some populations, they don't necessarily want to share their information with the government. We get that, but we want to make sure we keep them notified. So Reachwell is our way around that. It also will translate into 115 different languages. So in case you speak some far off language, they probably have it. And it will take our messaging very successfully and translate it so that you can understand it. So Reachwell is a great tool. Sign up for both, figure out which one you like. And then, if you have any questions, please reach out. And that is, I believe, all I have. There you go.
All right, the last piece of this puzzle is thinking about how you, as an Aspen area resident, can contribute to wildfire resiliency at a home level. So again, we know that community resilience means living with fire and trying to reduce the destructive consequences, knowing that wildfire has always been a part of our ecology here and it will return to the valley. We've been talking all night about kind of forest management trends that can slow down the progression of fire. However, we know that alone cannot prevent homes from burning down. So what can you do to protect your home? This is a still shot of Dr. Jack Cohen, who did research in the 80s and 90s trying to figure out exactly what burns down homes in a wildfire. And he actually went into the boreal forest of Canada. He cut these big, huge kind of blocks of forest, old growth, old, big, tall trees, and he built structures adjacent to these. And then he lit these blocks on fire with the goal of trying to figure out how far away do houses have to be from the largest, hottest burning fires he could ignite in order to stay standing. And he found really only about 66 feet. So if you can keep your home 66 feet away from all other ignitions, homes, trees, other flammable things, and prevent proof your structure from embers, prevent embers from getting into your house and igniting, then your home has a really great chance of survival. A lot of this is luck, but as we know from the LA fires and the Hawaii fires and a lot of recent research, the science is really clear on what burns down homes. We hope that you'll leave here both more knowledgeable about the Sunnyside burn and also thinking about what you can do to keep your home standing. Studies show that as many as 90% of homes that were lost to wildland fire could have been saved by these relatively simple measures. Just some quick pictures. This is the Long Mesa fire of 2002, and you can see that the spaces around these homes were really well mitigated. They were cleared of those trees, and they withstood the fire. All of that gray area is burned. This is a picture before the Waldo Canyon fire of 2012, and you can see up in the top a lot of trees directly around those homes. The one home that stayed standing was the home that had a lot of trees cleared away from it. And then this is kind of that famous, like the miracle house that people were referring it to in the Lahaina fire. Again, a lot of this is luck, but there's a lot of science that points us to really simple measures that you can do. The best thing that you can do if it's not intuitive for you how to focus on kind of those 100 feet away from your home is simply to call Aspen Fire. And a firefighter will come out to your home at no charge. They'll do a risk assessment of your home that's confidential, and they'll give you a prioritized list of exactly what you could do, recommendations that you could take to ember-proof your home. This is if you live in the Aspen area, and I'll show you a QR code if you live outside Aspen. Follow through on those recommended home hardening actions. And if you live anywhere in the valley, once you do those things, that QR code on the left is if you're outside of Aspen area. Then the Wildfire Collaborative now has a community assistance fund that can match you dollar for dollar up to $1,500 total dollars to support those efforts. All right, floor is yours now for questions. We have a really great panel of people here. We have wildlife biologists, we have fire experts, we have Forest Service, we have ACEs, we have City of Aspen, we have Aspen Fire and the Wildfire Collaborative. So please let us know what questions you have, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Any questions at all? Anybody? Excellent. If you're going to field the question, I'll have you come up in front so we can document it, but also bring the mic to you so we can get it audio.
I'm just curious how effective the pheromone process has been. The application of the pheromones as a retardant for the beetle. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to know exactly how effective that the treatments are, but they are known to be quite effective at basically confusing the beetles. And the beetles, Doug fir beetle and other bark beetles that are related to them are pretty weak flyers. So when you confuse them, not as many of them can get into are able to get into trees. And so one of the beetle strategies is to overwhelm the trees, or a given tree that they see has stress. And so yeah, it is effective. And we have actually seen a downward trend in beetles in traps, because we're also monitoring the beetles. So it's a range. Yeah. So it's hard. The question was, is it or is the pheromone packet or the packets effective just for the tree that you apply it to, or is it for a larger area? It is effective for an area. So we actually put up a grid of packets at a recommended spacing, and it kind of creates this. The packets kind of release this gas that is the pheromone smell, I guess, and that is effective for the entire area. So, yeah.
Anyone else question-wise?
Yeah, I realize there's certain variables depending on factors you mentioned, weather and precipitation. But can you elaborate a little more on specific plans for the burn? I mean, is there a map of the area to be impacted, and what are the control measures that are taken in the course of conducting the burn? How long would the burn go on, et cetera?
Yeah, that'd be great. No, it's those are all great questions. We'll get the map up, and I'll give you an operational briefing here, like we're on a fire. So yeah, usually all these prescribed burns implemented with main ignitions within usually 1 to 2 days. Looking at the map here, you can see they call it priority, but that's the line going up the ridge that isn't a ski run. That's a control line. So we had a hand crew come in with 20 people and cut about a 30-foot swath going up the hill, and we have another hand line going down it, so about a 12-inch wide scratch on a mineral soil. That's our main control line to the west. We have another mastication line that goes along the private edge to the Starwood, and then along the bottom we have the Red Mountain Ditch, which will be a control feature. And then to the east we'll be using natural features as far as the snow on leeward side of ridges. And then on the top we'll have snow on top of the mountain. So if you guys live in town, really this warm spell, the past 7 to 10 days has really melted out that hillside. Where you can see what we're looking for here is we're gonna burn what faces don't have snow on them. So it'll be, won't be that whole hillside. It'll be what available, more south and westerly facing slopes we're gonna burn. And again, main ignition's probably 1 to 2 days, and then within another 2 to 5 days, usually just with just the nighttime temperatures and just the overall soil moisture, just with the fuel type that's in there, with the mixed mountain shrub and aspen, usually the interior smokes will go out. We'll control any heat that's along those edges that we can safely get firefighters into. So there'll be limited risk of fire getting out of it after that main ignition. So yeah, it looks like overall, 2 to 5 days probably is the duration, with again the main amount of smoke will be just during that first day when we're using either aviation or possibly firefighters to put fire on the hillside there. And we could be using a helicopter or possibly a drone using a PSD machine. So it look like little ping pong balls that would we inject them with glycol, and there's a promesium permanganate inside, and essentially makes a chemical reaction and drops little balls of fire out of the helicopter or the drone, and that's how we'll get fire farther up the hillside. Because as you see, if any of you guys have been out there, that all those faces, it's steep, nasty country to walk in. So we use helicopter or drone because we can. It's much safer to do. And also, too, we can light more, treat more acres in a day, and it's much more cost effective as well. So what you can do with flying a helicopter in 2 hours is days of having actual firefighters hike up and down ridges. And that, too, just lessens the impact on the community, just having 1 or 2 days of actual ignition. Then we're done, we can control it, and that's been the most cost-effective and effective way to implement these projects. Any other questions you guys have, kind of burn-wise? Yeah. Oh, so what he was talking about on the map here, we have the priority 1 line, and then we have another control line along that forest and private boundary. So no, the idea is not to bring fire all the way to that private boundary along Starwood. What we have, especially with this burn, having the high dollar values at risk and close proximity to communities and neighborhoods there, that's a secondary control line. So they mentioned priority 1. I don't even know if we'll bring fire that far. That's a contingency line. And then the line that's along the private edge to the west, that's a secondary holding line, just in case there is another, just in case somehow you get a spot over there, we have a secondary control line. But probably, if I had a laser pointer, I'd say probably what we'll bring fire to is you have that priority line there with the little yellow kind of, I don't know, whatever text box there. But probably somewhere in that drainage there, we'll have snow on more of that western facing slope or somewhere in there, and we'll keep fire east of that. That's as close as we'll probably bring fire towards Starwood on that side, if that makes sense.
Will there be fire on? Or is it app?
No, there will be, so there'll be firefighters everywhere we have access to. So along those lines, along the ditch on the bottom side, probably on that eastern side, probably not on those hillsides, but we'll find an area that it's holding snow and not put fire past that. And definitely not up above. We'll have the snow on the upper edge of the mountaintop there to keep it in there. But no, we'll have firefighters all over this burn. We'll have probably tanked UTVs if it isn't too muddy along the the ditch side of things. And where we can, there's no real access for fire engines, but we'll have firefighters dispersed throughout, and we'll have fire engines in the surrounding neighborhoods and homes around the prescribed fire as well. So the question was, what can adjacent homeowners do to prepare for this prescribed fire? I think really we're taking a lot of precautions on the Forest Service side, again, with the control lines. I think if they want to just stay informed, or, we mentioned too, whatever mitigation they can do in their own property, if there is a wildfire, not so much for this, but really just be prepared if they have questions or how we can keep them informed. Just to lessen, I guess, whatever anxiety. I know smoke has an effect. People see smoke on the air. Fire, there's a visceral feeling of that. So whatever we can do to make them aware. And then once we're done this project, what they can do on their own property. Angie had some great slides of what you can do to harden their own structures. And just really that's what we want to do is kind of, we treat stuff on the forest, do stuff on private land, and then also we do stuff on the, Pickens County property. Then we get a much bigger footprint. So if there is a catastrophic wildfire, we're much more of a resilient landscape here. So that's something really homeowners can do is build on this project and then take it onto their own property and just do their own mitigation work as well. Would be a great step forward. Good. The question was, is there insurance for this? I've had numerous people ask me as far as insurance for this. So the USDA is, self-insured as far as.
So we call pro
Yeah, I don't know
if you're still working.
Yeah, if I'm still employed, there is so say there is some type of catastrophic event, there is a tort claim process, and I don't know, that's Kevin Warner. He's the district ranger on the Aspen Sopris district. I don't know if Kevin, if you have anything you'd like to.
Yeah, Dan's right. Sorry. Kevin Warner, District Ranger on the Aspen Sopris Ranger District. And Dan's correct. The U.S. government generally and the USDA and the Forest Service are self-insured. And so there are processes that are in place if there were to be a situation where where the prescribed fire were to leave the area up there in orange and get onto private land that wasn't intended. Doesn't happen very often. Yeah.
Any other questions? So the question was, can we get access to the burn plan? No, historically we don't share those just because there is a lot of kind of confidential stuff in there as far as just emails, just notification stuff, just kind of some private information in there. You can look up the template for one online. It's just on the internet. You can just look up NWCG prescribed fire burn plan. And you can see all the elements in. It's a document with 21 elements in it. Goes from prescription to a bunch of stuff that's in there, and that's the overarching document we use, and then we just curtail that specifically to each one of these projects. But yeah, usually we don't share the specific burn plan just because there's sensitive information in there.
Just to explain the burn plan process a little bit more, there's multiple stages of review. So, Dan and others work on the burn plan together. Then they send it up for a technical review by two additional technical reviewers. Then it comes back, and then myself or others as the agency administrator then review it as well, and we sign off on it together. And so just to maybe put your mind at ease at all, there's multiple individuals across multiple groups that all take a look at this. So it's not just Dan sitting in his basement putting it together and saying, yeah, this thing is good enough. We do take them really seriously to make sure we got the right information in there.
I wanted to add that if you're curious when the burn will go off, your best one-stop shop is probably this webpage. So up top, we'll take out the blue that is talking about tonight's community meeting, and we'll start to give kind of live updates of what we know about the conditions. And as we are narrowing in to the window of when it will take place, this will be your best source of information. You'll start to see signage around town and some, things that kind of are directing you here, but feel free to bookmark this. It's right under rfvwildfire.org, and you can link to it from any page on there. Yeah, go for it.
Hi, I'm Roy Saba. I run the all the domestic drinking water in Starwood. From the previous slide, in the orange as being referred to, etc., I want to be clear that the orange doesn't represent fully to the west the land that you plan to do the burn on. Similarly to this document, which seems to suggest the fire is going to come all the way across to the left-hand fire line, but that you actually you're going to stay to the right of both of those fire lines, ideally, and you'll have those two levels of defense. So when I went to the website, Angie, that you were just suggesting, and saw the left-hand image there of the two fire lines cut, only, reading that this is the intended area, or assumably a picture here, right? The site of the prescribed burn after preliminary work was completed. That's scary, and way too scary for the public. You need to do something here to get the fire off that page and to the right. Either blow it back out or say that it's not going to be in the area of those two lines or what have you, so that it's clear that you have a defense set up before you get into the left-hand side of Starwood. So I highly suggest doing that, because here you're basically, the conclusion when you read that is that the fire is going, in between maybe those two areas, or that everything in that image on the left-hand side will be fire. But if I understand you correctly from this presentation, right, you're at the arrow over for that. Okay.
Yep. No, that's a really good point. Pardon us if sometimes talking fire terms or just how my operational brain works is a little bit different, but yeah, it'll probably kind of where that pointer is, somewhere along that ridge line, we'll bring fire down that, and then the leeward side will be higher moisture, and theoretically shouldn't really spread to the west there. And prominently the winds, south southwest, so it'll push that way and into itself. But as you guys know, with just the location of this, we did have to add those extra holding features. There's other places that are much more remote. I joke we do it with a little bit of snow and a cow trail, but not here. This is a little bit different than burning some of our more remote areas, so we needed those control features. But that's a really good point. We'll take that forward. This has been a changing, evolving thing. We probably did this map X amount of months ago, and that's the actual analyzed planning area for the whole burn. But obviously we're not gonna burn that stuff below the ditch out in that kind of peninsula. But no, that's really good point.
Or west. You were showing cursor up there.
Yeah, so it'll be, right, probably like that next ridge where the cursor is, right over in there. Probably as far as we bring fire, on that side. So yeah, the question was, why not bring it all the way down to the ditch, the Red Mountain ditch? And we are kind of going through some talks with some of those landowners, and there is a possibility that we could bring it down to the ditch, and I was calling it the shark fin, in the middle of this. So there is a chance we're just, kind of ongoing, and, in order for the Forest Service to treat on private land, we have to go through some agreement process. So we've been kind of talking with those homeowners and those ranches to see if that's a possibility. So it's not ruled out, but So there is a chance there we can bring it down to the ditch all the way across. And if that isn't a possibility, then we'll just, it'll be a smaller footprint of the prescribed burn, and we'll just burn those faces that we can and just not get fire onto the private property there. Good questions. Any other questions?
Thank you.